You're just an old hag. I can't see you as a woman anymore. I want a divorce, so get lost. Tom sneered as he spat these words at me. We were in the hospital where Tom had been admitted, and I had come to take care of him. After selflessly supporting Tom through his illness, this is the thanks I get. It's just too much. Tom betrayed me with a calm face. Looking back, I've always been treated horribly by Tom. Yet, why did I endure it all this time? Being married to such a despicable person has no benefits for me. Thinking this, I slowly opened my mouth. I'm not gonna let Tom have his way anymore. Holding a quiet resolve in my heart, I faced Tom head-on. My name is Anna Smith. I just turned 45 and I'm a working housewife. My family consists of my son Ryan and my husband Tom. Ryan just started high school this year, and he's a very kind and good boy. I think I've done well with parenting. My husband Tom used to be quite the handsome man. It might sound funny to call my own husband handsome, but he used to be quite popular. I fell for Tom at first sight, competed with my rivals at the time, and snagged the wife's spot. However, that handsomeness is a thing of the past. Hey, got anything to snack on? In his 40s, after Ryan was born, Tom gradually gained a lot of weight and is currently rocking a substantial belly. There's a specific reason why he ended up this fat. It was Tom's infidelity. While I was busy raising Ryan, Tom cheated because he felt lonely. His affair partner was a food lover, and following her lead, he quickly gained a lot of weight. I'm gonna divorce you. Wait, please, give me another chance. After discovering the affair, I decided to confront Tom with the intention of divorcing him. However, Tom said he didn't want to separate from Ryan, who had just been born, and swore he would never cheat again. I too thought it would be sad for Ryan to grow up without a father, so I hesitated on the divorce. Since then, Tom hasn't cheated, but his overweight figure remains the same. When we were rebuilding our relationship, he promised to go on a diet, but he has yet to fulfill that promise. I've probably resigned myself to him staying that way for life. As for me, I don't really mind whether Tom is fat or thin. However, I just wish he would stop leading an unhealthy lifestyle. The reason Tom has never lost weight is his refusal to give up his unhealthy habits, no matter how much I nag. I've told him countless times, what if his habits cause him to collapse, but Tom doesn't listen at all. I wonder if my warnings are just a waste of time, as my size and Tom's fat just keep increasing day by day. I'm a working housewife, but the company I've been with since graduating from college has recently gotten much busier. Over the past few years, our sales have significantly increased, and there are plans to open a new branch. This has led to an increase in my workload, and I'm busier than ever. But I still need to make dinner, right? For Tom's health, I try to cook meals even during my busy schedule. However, my efforts seem futile. I got flagged during my routine health checkup. I have a re-examination next month. What? Again? Every year, it seems, Tom fails his health checkup. He reported this year's failure with a look of annoyance. Hey, where's the paper from the checkup? Let me see it. I thought it would be good to be informed, so I asked Tom. However, he refused with a look of displeasure. Why? It's not necessary. I'll just go for the re-examination, get treated, and that'll be the end of it. But what if something happens? Huh? Look, you're always overreacting. Don't make a fuss over something like this. Really? Tom just grumbled and never did show me the results of the checkup. From that day on, I made sure to serve healthy meals, but Tom grimaced at the sight of the bland food. This bland cooking doesn't even feel like eating. He complained about my cooking and left most of it untouched, then went out to buy burgers and junk food to eat. A little might be okay, but where does he put all that food? Tom eats a lot of unhealthy food at once. At this rate, he's probably gonna need a re-examination next year too. Hey, I'm not saying stop eating, but maybe cut down a bit? It's bad for your health. You're right, Mom. It's kinda too much, isn't it? Even Ryan, who's growing and usually eats a lot, is taken aback by how much and how heavily seasoned the food Tom eats is. By the way, Ryan enjoys the healthy meals I make and eats them with a smile. However, it seems Tom doesn't take our son's advice to heart either. Quiet down. I bought this with my paycheck. You guys have no right to comment. Tom yells at us, visibly irritated. Ryan and I kept advising him patiently, but Tom would snap back every time, and eventually, we stopped saying anything. Then, one day, I got a shocking call. What? My husband was rushed to the hospital. The call came suddenly from Tom's workplace. I was at work, but I rushed to the hospital where Tom was taken. According to the doctors, Tom had suffered a heart attack and needed emergency surgery. Still shaken, I signed the consent forms. Fortunately, the surgery was successful. Tom was saved. Although I breathed a sigh of relief, it was probably his unhealthy lifestyle that caused the heart attack. The doctor even mentioned he was a bit too overweight. It was all Tom's own doing. I thought he might reflect a bit and change his ways going forward, but it seems I was too optimistic. Hey, could you buy me some sweet juice? And I want some chips too. I'm sick of this bland hospital food. As soon as he was feeling better, Tom was trying to get me to buy him snacks. I refused, quite exasperated. Absolutely not. You landed here because of your unhealthy lifestyle. We need to change that. But Tom lashed out at me. I'm sick, you know. To say such horrible things, you're terrible. And still, Tom kept ordering me around. He thinks just because he's sick, I should do everything he says. While I can accommodate him within reason, I cannot accept requests related to his diet. However, when I refused, Tom would fly into a rage. Sometimes, he would even throw things at me. I was becoming increasingly disillusioned, but as Tom continued his hospital stay, he successfully lost weight due to a forced diet and was in a much better mood. Being in the hospital isn't so bad, he'd say nonchalantly, looking in the mirror without realizing the trouble he caused. He began to regain his old handsome features and boasted about how often the female nurses and other patients were talking to him. I'm exhausted. In addition to work and household chores, caring for Tom made my days overwhelmingly busy. One evening, after finally winding down, I sat in the living room chair and couldn't help but sigh. Hey Mom, I'll take over the household chores from now on. Ryan said with a concerned look. What? That's okay, Ryan, you have your club activities, don't you? There aren't any matches for a while, and it's mostly just self-training recently. Besides, it'd be good for me to learn some household chores for when I get married, right? I was grateful for Ryan's offer to help, but I was even more delighted by his comment about preparing for marriage. Tom had always dismissively assumed household chores were a woman's job and hardly did any himself. Ryan had turned out to be such a good kid, it was hard to believe he grew up watching a father like that. All right. Maybe I'll take you up on that offer then. When I said this, Ryan smiled and nodded. I thought with Ryan around, we could surely get through anything. But life isn't always so sweet. One day, as usual, I went to visit Tom in the hospital. Yikes! What? I was stunned to find a young female nurse with her uniform undone, sitting on Tom's bed. A young female nurse let out a short scream, leaving me dumbfounded. The nurse's name tag read, Fabia Winter. In a flustered hurry, Tom shooed the nurse out, then sighed and said, Call before you come. No, I did call. But who was that just now? What were you doing? I dared to ask something that was obvious. Tom had cheated on me over a decade ago and sworn never to do it again. I thought he had reflected since he truly hadn't cheated until now, but perhaps it was only because he was too overweight for anyone to bother with him. Seeing my shock, Tom gave a smug smile. What? It's an affair, an affair. I started getting attention again after I lost weight. Man, one body isn't enough. But you promised you wouldn't cheat. Then, with a mocking smile, Tom blurted out to me. "That's old news, right? I can't see an old hag like you as a woman. I want a divorce, so get lost." "How could you?" Then, Tom dropped another bombshell. "Actually, she's pregnant with my child. As a man, I have to take responsibility, right?" He spoke arrogantly about responsibility, but what about his responsibility to our family? I started to say this, but then closed my mouth. Instead, I muttered softly, "Is that so? I'm sorry to hear that. I'll go get the divorce papers now." "Yeah, please do." Stunned, I went straight to the city hall to get the divorce papers. Back at the hospital, after getting Tom to sign, I managed to say while holding back tears, "I wish you happiness. I'm leaving that house. Yeah, that house is mine, after all. It makes sense for you to leave. And I'll give you custody. He's more attached to you, and my girlfriend wouldn't want a child with attachments." I didn't react to Tom's words, just silently put the divorce papers in my bag. Tom watched me despondently, seemingly amused. "I should have done this sooner. You've been really cheeky lately. You had the nerve to talk back all this time? Well, this is what you get. It's all your own fault we're getting divorced." I had fallen in love with Tom and married him. Perhaps he did all this because he was confident in being liked by me. But that all ends today. After placing Tom's belongings down, I left the hospital room. A month has passed since the divorce from Tom. Ryan and I moved out of that house, and now it's just the two of us living together. With all the paperwork settled, Ryan and I were finally enjoying a day off with no errands to run. "Mom, you're tired. I'll make lunch today." "Really? Thank you, I'm looking forward to it." Ryan and I shared a warm smile. Just then, I received an unexpected call from Tom. "Hello, hello?" I answered the phone, puzzled about what he could possibly want. This was the first time Tom had called since the divorce. I didn't really want to answer, but I couldn't ignore it if it was an emergency. Then, I heard Tom's distressed voice from the other end. "Hey, I was just told to pay the rest of my surgery bill. You didn't pay it." At such a question, I let out a sigh of exasperation. "I haven't paid it. Why should I, a divorced woman, pay for your surgery fees?" Yes, I had paid for all of Tom's surgery and hospital bills. Tom had always been too lazy to get insurance, and he had no hospital insurance at all. So, I paid out of my own pocket. It was a substantial amount, but at that time, Tom was still part of my family, so I had no complaints about paying. However, after Tom brutally betrayed our family and demanded a divorce, he wasn't my family anymore, and there was no need for me to pay. When I told Tom this, he continued in a flustered voice on the phone. "Wait, you were paying all this money?" "The amount on the receipt, it's a huge sum." "Yes. Because you were my family. Of course, I'd pay that much for family. But we're not family anymore." Then Tom's voice grew frantic. "You should know my savings aren't that much." "Of course, I know. You've always been reckless with money." Indeed, since his affair over a decade ago, Tom's spending had become extravagant. I had warned him several times, but he would just get angry, saying not to complain about how he spent his earnings. Though he wasn't initially that interested in food, the influence from his affair partner continued even after their breakup, and he kept pouring a lot of money into meals. Among other things, Tom had impulsively spent his salary on golf clubs that he gave up on after 3 days and an expensive camera that now just collects dust without much use. Eventually, I stopped bothering about how he spent his money. "Then, you know I can't pay this huge bill, right? Get the money ready and come to the hospital." "Where are you now?" "I asked Fabia to go to the house, but she said there was no one there." Fabia was Tom's affair partner. I was truly glad Ryan and I had left the house. I never want to see the face of the woman who caused us so much pain. I replied to Tom's panicked call with utter calmness. Why would I tell you? Right now, I'm enjoying peaceful days with Ryan. I absolutely refuse to let you disrupt our peace. Since divorcing Tom and leaving that house, I've seen more smiles on Ryan's face. I've actually wanted you to divorce Dad for a long time. You never seemed happy with him. He always made nasty remarks to me. Further into our conversation, it turned out Tom had threatened Ryan with not paying for his college if he didn't obey him. Ryan is kind, but he had recently begun to speak up against Tom more frequently. Tom must not have liked that. If you keep defying your parents, you'll regret it. Tom had been trying to control Ryan by saying such things behind my back. Hearing this made me feel dizzy with anger. How could he be so cruel to his own son? I had thought divorcing Tom would make Ryan feel lonely without a father. But that was a grave misunderstanding. Living with Tom was the cause of our misery. I deeply regret not divorcing him sooner. If we had done that, we wouldn't have had to endure so many miserable days. But now, we are free from Tom. There's no way I'm letting him take this freedom away from us. I am prepared to do anything to protect Ryan and myself. I will never tell you where we are. I said this to Tom with firm determination. There was silence for a while, but then I could hear Tom sniffling on the other end. Was he crying? It's his own fault this has happened, and he doesn't even have the right to cry. I almost blurted out those words but quickly swallowed them. Saying such things now would be pointless. Please, pay for the treatment. Tom pleaded with a tearful voice. His voice was so irritating that I frowned deeply as I responded. Why would I pay after we've divorced? Do you even care what happens to me? You married me because you loved me, right? Tom cried out in agony. Indeed, I had loved Tom. He used to be so handsome, and I fell for him at first sight. At first, it was his looks, but as I got to know him better, I grew to like his smooth handling of women and his kind nature. Looking back, he probably acted so smoothly because he was used to getting attention from women. And being nice was just a way to get even more attention. You looked sad when I signed the divorce papers, right? You still have feelings for me, don't you? If you pay for the treatment, I'll divorce Fabia and remarry you. So, what are you talking about? Huh? Tom sounded dumbfounded. My love for Tom became a part of my past. After Ryan was born and Tom cheated, my feelings for him disappeared. The reason I looked sad back then was because I was utterly disgusted with myself for not seeing Tom's infidelity. It was certainly not because I still had feelings for Tom. Tom said he cheated because he felt lonely as I was always busy with Ryan. However, after Ryan was born, Tom never helped me with housework or childcare. Once, when I asked him to help even a little, he disdainfully said, "You can't even handle that? You're a failure as a mother." During a time when I was nervous from the busy days and unfamiliar childcare, that comment from Tom was the last straw. His affair came to light right after. Does he really think I still have feelings for him after all that? I stopped loving you 14 years ago, the day you cheated. Tom seemed stunned on the other end of the phone. What? Why? Why? After doing something so terrible, you ask why? You really don't understand people's feelings, do you? If you didn't love me anymore, why didn't you divorce me sooner? There were several reasons. First, it was a big risk to divorce while still caring for young Ryan. Also, I had convinced myself that it was better for Ryan to have a father. Since that divorce drama, I had no love left for Tom. We just lived together as cohabitants. Over the years, I developed familial affection for Tom. I couldn't forgive the past, but I thought continuing as a family might be an option. However, Tom cheated again right in front of me that day. Whether Tom falls in love with someone else or not, I no longer feel jealous. I am angry because Tom broke his promises. He broke his promise and abandoned being a father to Ryan. I feel intense anger about that. There's no way I could have any lingering feelings for someone like that. What happens to you is none of my concern. Tom was at a loss for words after my response. Hey, are you just going to stay silent? I was enjoying a rare day off. I don't have time to waste talking to you anymore, I'm hanging up now. As I said this, Tom spoke up in a panic. Wait. Listen, that's right. You can't possibly raise Ryan alone, right? He's about to start college, and you'll need money. You'll struggle without me, won't you? His completely misguided words made me burst out laughing. What are you laughing at? Tom yelled from the other side of the phone. He really doesn't understand anything about me. I decided to enlighten him with the truth. I've been earning a higher salary than you for a while now. Unlike you, I haven't wasted any money, so I have quite a bit saved up. I'm not struggling financially at all, so no need to worry. What? I'm not struggling without you. Ryan's college fund is all set, so don't worry about that either. We have absolutely no problems without you. Indeed, I have been consistently working at the same company since graduating college, receiving a salary that matches my evaluations. I had to take a slightly longer maternity leave, which delayed my promotions compared to my peers. Still, by continuously working hard, I eventually got promoted to assistant manager. I had informed Tom of my promotion, but he assumed that, because I'm a woman, I wasn't earning much. Being busy with work is just a woman's excuse, right? I'm a man and obviously busier. Don't neglect housework using work as an excuse. When my job became busier after the promotion and I couldn't cook, leading to more takeout meals. This was what Tom said. No matter how much I explained my job or how hard I was working, Tom just laughed condescendingly. The only reason I was able to endure was because kind Ryan supported me. Not because of Tom. In fact, Tom was a burden to me. Only after the divorce did I truly understand this. The situation had become this way because of Tom, but perhaps my own obliviousness also contributed to the deterioration of the situation. But now, I won't make that mistake again. Tom, you haven't contributed much to the living expenses in recent years, have you? Did you ever wonder how we managed to maintain our lifestyle as usual? It's obvious because I was earning enough money to get by. We have no problems without you. Then, with a trembling voice, Tom muttered, Ryan, what about him? He must be feeling lonely without a father, right? What will the parents of his future spouse think if he doesn't have a father? It's obvious that it's better for me to be around for Ryan's future. I was so appalled by his words that I couldn't help but hold my head in my hands. Then, Ryan, who had been listening to the conversation the whole time, signaled that he wanted to take over the call. Are you sure? Yeah, I have something I need to say to Dad. Encouraged by Ryan's determined look, I nodded and handed him the phone. Hello, Dad? Ryan. Tell your mom too. She needs me, doesn't she? However, without a moment's hesitation, Ryan responded clearly. No, we're not struggling at all. What? For me, Mom is the only parent I need. Dad is just someone I'm related to by blood. I don't even like that fact, but I accept it because there's nothing I can do about it. Also, you mentioned something about what a future spouse's family might think. Having a parent like you is more of a disadvantage to me. Ryan spoke plainly, denying Tom. His face was calm, with no sign of trying to score points against Tom. Just expressing what he truly thought. Mom divorcing you was the best thing ever. Thanks to that, I'm really happy now. If there were any talks about you and Mom getting remarried, I'd do everything to stop it. Because that would not make Mom happy. Tom seemed completely at a loss for words. Can you please not interfere with me and Mom anymore? You should just be happy with your affair partner.
Wait, Ryan! I still want to be your father.
Why did you cheat then? This is all your own doing, the result you brought on yourself. I don't think of you as a father anymore. You're not needed in mine or Mom's life. Ryan's clear rejection made me smirk involuntarily. I never expected Ryan to reject Tom to such an extent. I took the phone from Ryan and delivered my final words to Tom. So you understand now? Just as Ryan said, stay out of our lives for good. If you show up, I'll consult with a lawyer and take appropriate action. Tom said nothing in response. I sighed softly and ended the call. Later, I heard that Tom managed to pay the remaining surgery and hospital bills with money borrowed from a consumer finance company. If he had no money, he could have negotiated a payment plan with the hospital, or found a better way. Divorcing Tom really was the right decision. After settling in from the move, I took a break and then hired a lawyer to sue for damages for the affair. Just divorcing for the affair wasn't enough for me. Tom apparently hadn't expected to be sued for damages. He gave the lawyer quite a hard time. Tell him I'm ready for court if that's what it takes. When I relayed this to my lawyer, Tom quietly agreed to the damages claim. At this point, Tom finally told his parents about our divorce and asked for their help with the payments. However, his parents were furious. They disowned him, declaring they no longer considered him their son. Later, I received a call from my mother-in-law. We've disowned him, but we don't want to cut ties with you and Ryan. Even though you're divorced, would you come to visit us? Yes, of course. I'll bring Ryan to visit you soon. Tom's parents are very kind and good people. Even though we live far away, they continue to support us. Ryan also wants to see his grandparents, and we plan to visit them soon. After being abandoned by his own parents, Tom borrowed more money from consumer finance to pay the alimony. Currently, he's struggling just to pay the interest. I suspect he might eventually declare bankruptcy, but whatever happens to him is no longer my concern. Despite his savings being depleted to less than zero, Tom somehow managed to be discharged from the hospital but soon collapsed again. It seems that his unhealthy lifestyle accelerated after our separation. Incidentally, he has broken up with his affair partner. I also sued the affair partner for damages, but my lawyer told me this. She's separated from your ex-husband and is asking for forgiveness on the alimony claim. She claimed she was pregnant, but it turned out to be a lie. That doesn't matter. I'm going ahead with the claim. Understood, I'll convey that to her. With that, I relentlessly pursued damages from the affair partner. She lied about being pregnant, thinking it would lead Tom to divorce me. She probably never imagined that Tom was so financially unstable that he couldn't even pay for his surgery. Apparently, she was fired from the hospital for having an improper relationship with a patient during work hours. She's been struggling to find another job and reportedly cried to my lawyer about her financial difficulties, but that's none of my concern. Eventually, she managed to scrape together the money to pay the damages, possibly even using consumer finance like Tom. Well, the details don't matter to me, and I don't want to know. After confirming the damages were deposited, I breathed a sigh of relief. Thus, my tumultuous days came to a close. I am now living peaceful and happy days with Ryan. Cautious of Tom and the spiteful affair partner, I chose a highly secure apartment for our new home. Just in case, I keep in touch with my former in-laws to stay informed about Tom's situation. After paying the alimony, Tom had to sell his house to manage his debts and is now living alone in a small apartment. He quickly regained the weight he had lost, not from healthy living but from neglect, and soon after was hospitalized again. He looks much older than a man in his 40s should. But whatever happens to him, it has nothing to do with us. Mom, I have something to discuss about college. Do you have time now? Yes, of course. Ryan has recently started to seriously consider his future. The divorce caused him a lot of stress, but he's doing very well now. Since the divorce, I've had more free time, almost more than I know what to do with. I'm thinking about starting a new hobby with my newfound free time. Just imagining it makes me feel excited. Let's make the most of today. Today, as always, I'm dedicated to work and household duties for the sake of myself and Ryan. Thinking about the promising future ahead, I smiled. It wasn't necessarily you from the start.
What? You think just because we're married, you're loved?
I never imagined my husband would cheat on me and then have the audacity to say such a thing. Overwhelmed with shock, I called my mother, only to receive an unexpected response.
Well, isn't that a good thing?
Huh? At that moment, I had no clue what she thought was good, but it seemed my mother had her own thoughts on the matter. It was time to bring justice to a husband who showed no remorse for cheating and to a sister who stole another's spouse. My name is Sarah Taylor. I'm currently 35 and work as a pharmacist at a general hospital. Since graduating from college, I've been dedicated to my job, living a life far from leisure or romance. My days were simple, devoid of any drama, until one day, when I received a message from a club member I was briefly affiliated with in college. It seems there was a man he wanted to introduce me to. I learned that this man worked in an all-male environment and had zero opportunities to meet women. They asked if they could share my contact information. Initially puzzled, I figured it'd be rude to decline without reason. After agreeing to share my contact information, the man reached out to me immediately.
Hello, I'm David Taylor. Sorry for the sudden approach, but I've heard you're a wonderful lady, so I wanted to chat. I hope you don't mind me sharing your contact info.
Our conversations via email and phone were lively, and soon, David and I started dating. My first impression of David was of a man who took charge. He was meticulous in planning our dates and always put ladies first. It felt as if I was being treated like a princess, and my daily life seemed to be colored full of roses. I promise to make you happy. Please be with me. Let's get married.
Yes, I'd love to.
So, I got married at 33, but since our wedding, I began to notice David changing. Having lived alone for a long time, David had established his own routines. Of course, I had my own habits from living solo, but as a couple, I tried to make adjustments to ensure we both lived harmoniously. Often hearing David complain about his tiring work, I took it upon myself to handle chores like cooking, cleaning, and laundry. However, this might have backfired. Before I knew it, David seemed to have adopted the mindset that household chores aren't his job.
I was gonna take a bath, but what's this?
There's trash in the drain. I'm sorry, I'm cooking right now and can't step away. Would you mind cleaning it up?
What? Why do I have to clean right after coming home from work?
With a click of his tongue, David began preparing to go out somewhere.
Hey, what's up?
Dinner will be ready soon.
Why are you ordering me around?
It's really off-putting. Ordering you? I didn't. Besides, where are you going this late?
Anywhere I want. You gonna boss me around?
He slammed the door and seemed to have left. Sometimes I might be lacking in household chores, or if I ask for small favors, he becomes grumpy right away. He acts like a rebellious teenager. He wasn't like this before we got married. With these thoughts, I've been spending more time alone. Lately, I've been holding back from saying unnecessary things to David. I don't say much, don't ask for anything, and keep my reactions neutral. I've been wondering if this is what married life is supposed to be like. Around that time, I've noticed David coming home particularly late. Maybe he's been busy at work, working weekends and unexpected late shifts. I hope he doesn't get sick. You've been coming home late recently. Busy at work?
You trying to boss me around again? That's so annoying.
It's work, okay, work. He responded in an irritated manner, and we stopped talking after that, but I know. One of my acquaintances is a junior coworker of David, and she told me some concerning things. She mentioned David reducing his overtime for family time and that she's seen him arm in arm with someone, disappearing into the night multiple times. I don't remember ever walking arm in arm with David, but something does come to mind. I have a twin sister, and even as adults, people sometimes mistake us. Our faces look identical, but my sister, who's vibrant with makeup and always dresses elegantly, is quite charming. If anyone mistook someone for me, it'd probably be her.
Hey David, my friend said she saw you last Wednesday night around 7 p.m.
Oh? Really?
Around 7 p.m.?
What were you doing then? I don't remember, maybe I was at the convenience store? As he said this, not taking his eyes off his phone, I noticed his fingers trembling. I decided to be direct. She said you were walking arm in arm with me. But I was working late that day. What are you trying to say? Spit it out. Have you been seeing my sister, Scarlett, behind my back? So what's your point? When I confronted David about cheating, he started saying things he never expected. Suddenly, he stood up from the sofa and glared at me. You know, it wasn't necessarily about you in the first place. What? You think just 'cause we're married means you're loved? What? I mean, when we were dating, didn't we get married because we loved each other? No way. Someone plain like you don't exactly stand out when you're beside me. Don't stand out? Huh? So, you think it's okay to cheat with my sister? While fiddling with his smartphone, David replied with a sigh. Look, I want to become an influencer someday, and looking good on camera matters, right? If I were to choose someone, it'd be Scarlett. What? Influencer? What are you talking about? Besides, you're a pharmacist, so even if I mess up, we won't have any financial issues. The unexpected comments kept coming, and I was having a hard time processing everything. So, are you saying our marriage is just a safety net? Kind of feels that way, doesn't it? So, you didn't marry me because you loved me? Don't flatter yourself too much. Who do you think would fall for a plain Jane like you? David gave a mocking smile, looking right at me. I've always thought this, but you don't really make an effort with your makeup or clothes. You just don't care, do you? Listening to this nonsense, I raised my voice. Then why don't you divorce me and marry Scarlett? You don't even understand how I feel. I don't care. I'm just with you 'cause I want to achieve my dreams and have a good life. You should be thankful. What? How can you expect me to be grateful in this situation? David, with a smug look on his face, waved his hand dismissively and then returned his gaze to his smartphone. If I hadn't confessed to you, you'd probably still be single, right? Just stop making fun of me. I want a divorce right now. No way. I ain't gonna divorce you. Plus, I don't know what our company and your parents would say. And of course, don't tell anyone about this. I was shaking with anger. After everything, you have the audacity to tell me not to speak out? Well, I doubt anyone would believe you anyway. My mind went blank with shock. I was all mixed up and couldn't think straight, but suddenly decided to call my mother, even though it was early in the morning. When I got married, she heard David's greetings and knew him well enough. I thought she would understand me with a brief talking. What's up calling so early? And are you crying? No, not really. Just spill it, what happened? Prompted by my mother, I explained everything that had happened. After listening to the story about David and Scarlett, she exclaimed loudly. Well, that's good, isn't it? Huh? I was puzzled, not understanding what she found good about the situation. Just lay off for now and leave David be for a bit. But just leaving him be. You chip away at these situations bit by bit. Taking my mother's advice, I decided to let David stew for a while. A few nights later, I met my mother at a cafe. Is it okay for you to be out this late? Isn't Scarlett at home? Scarlett said she's on a date. She mentioned something about a new boyfriend recently, but after hearing about Sarah, it made sense. So she's been telling you she's going on dates when she heads out? Yeah, typical Scarlett stuff. I've felt since high school that she's been a bit loose with her relationships, but I never thought it'd lead to this. My mother sighed, drinking her iced tea left in the glass at once. We need to keep a close eye on those two. She started fiddling with her smartphone, but after a while, she looked up with a mischievous grin. Next time, bring David over to our place. I've already texted him. She showed me the text message on her phone. It mentioned needing help with shopping and the need for some muscle as she was planning to buy something heavy. Guys like him act all nice in public. Just ask for some help and you'll see his true colors. I see. On the agreed day, I headed to my parents' house with David. On the way to my parents' house, it seemed like David suddenly remembered something and started speaking. "Hey, I think you know this, but if you tell your parents about that incident, I won't let it slide. Even if you do, they probably won't believe it anyway. You've got to be kidding. Why on earth would I say that? What's in it for me?" While discussing this, they arrived at my parents' house. "David, it's been a while. I'm sorry for bothering you on your day off. It really helps that you came." "No worries, I just wanted to be of assistance to you." My mother greeted David with a bright smile. Suddenly, as if she remembered something, she made a suggestion. "Oh right, Scarlett got the day off from work too. She mentioned wanting to go shopping together. Would that be okay with you, David?" "Of course. Well, shall we head to the mall?" The shopping center was about a 30-minute drive from my parents' house. "Before we shop, there's a place I'd like to go." Without hesitation, my mother briskly moved through the mall. We ended up at a jewelry shop hosting a special Valentine's Day corner. There was a flyer about a special gift for couples who wrote their wishes for love, and a chance to win a grand prize through a lottery. I often see campaigns giving candies to kids who write their wishes, but I didn't know they have ones for adults too. It says couples and married folks can participate. Why not give it a shot, Sarah and David? You might get lucky. Seeing that poster, David began to back away hesitantly. "Well, I'm not really into these seasonal promotions. Valentine's is all about love between couples. It's something couples and spouses should do together." While emphasizing spouses, my mother chuckled mischievously. I always knew my mother wore her heart on her sleeve, and she was definitely up to something. Realizing this, I decided to play along. "Come on, let's give it a try. There's a lottery where 3 couples can win a luxury resort hotel stay." "That resort hotel? You two never really had a proper wedding, so why not take some wedding photos there?" "I'm not much for photos, and we might not even win." "We haven't won yet, but we might." "Excuse me, ma'am." Before David could decline again, I called over a store employee and expressed their interest in participating in the Valentine's event. However, the employee's face turned sour upon seeing them. The employee stated that they couldn't participate in the event. "Huh? The flyer said couples and spouses can join." "I'm sorry, but we don't allow second-time participants." "Second time? This is our first time ever visiting this mall." Suddenly, I turned around and saw 2 people fidgeting. I couldn't believe it, and when I looked back at my mother, she was asking the store clerk something. "What do all participants in this promotion receive as a gift?" "It's this charm. It's a special design just for this year." Saying this, the clerk brought out a shooting star design charm that looked familiar. It was the same charm I had glimpsed on David's bag. I remember spotting it casually when I was observing a pouch I didn't recognize he owned. Could this be the shooting star on David's pouch? Hearing this, my mother immediately sprang into action. "That's odd. Scarlett had something similar recently. Excuse me for a sec." As my mother said this, she reached into Scarlett's bag and pulled out a wallet. "Just as I thought, it's attached right here. I had a feeling." "Mom, stop it! Don't go through someone's wallet! You're not a thief!" David, who was watching the mother-daughter squabble, seemed even more nervous than before, bouncing his knee. "Look at him jittering. Maybe he's panicking because he's been caught on a date with someone else?" But David snapped back loudly at the front of the store. "What the hell? Just because of one accessory, you're gonna make a big deal out of it? This sucks." "I'm the one who's upset here." My mother smirked mischievously, putting a hand on David's shoulder. "Let me get this straight, David. You left your wife, Sarah, to have a date as a couple with her twin sister, Scarlett?" "No, you've got it all wrong, my mother-in-law. I just got this charm from someone nearby when we went to the bar. They said it was a charm for a happy marriage. Don't even try to lie like that at this moment. It's obvious." What I realized later was that these shooting star charms given away at the event had serial numbers engraved on them. The serial numbers matched, and this became the conclusive evidence that gave away to my mother.
We need to have a proper talk. If you have anything to say it at home.
When we got home and all four of us gathered in the living room, the atmosphere became tense, like a wake.
I didn't even know about such an event.
Mom, where did you hear about it?
I got a tip from a colleague at work.
Apparently, it's become a sort of power spot among those who cheat. They say if you can keep those matching items without getting caught, you're destined to be together. While discussing this, my mother addressed David and Scarlett.
So, are you gonna explain in detail? David, you're married to Sarah but cheating on her. Besides, you're cheating with Sarah's twin sister, Scarlett. Is that right?
Well, yeah, something like that. I can't believe he's laughing it up at a time like this.
But they're sisters, so I'm still your precious family, right?
I mean, they're from the same family, so why bring up such an unpleasant topic?
You hurt your wife and prayed at that place. Does that mean you're serious about it?
Well, something like that. Scarlett is so feminine and lovely, she knows how to step back and let a man lead. Suddenly, David became talkative and began to spill the beans on why he cheated.
For me, I was thinking I wanted to be with Scarlett from now on.
Really? My mother just listened quietly to David's outrageous story without uttering a word. I couldn't bear just sitting and listening any longer when suddenly, Scarlett leaned in closer.
We are serious. I mean, Sarah got married first, but he truly loves me. He always tells me that. If you're that serious, then why not just get a divorce or remarry or whatever you want right now?
David, taking my mother's words as a sign of permission, started to get carried away.
So, I appreciate your understanding in the long run, my mother-in-law. And Sarah, I'm gonna remarry Scarlett, so this is it between me and you.
It's not over yet.
There are things that need to be settled, right?
David seemed taken aback by my mother's words for a moment, but quickly resumed his smug grin.
You're saying not to end it, but didn't you just forgive me for divorcing Sarah and being with Scarlett?
But still.
It's true I've borrowed money from Sarah within a certain range. But since I'm still part of the family after the divorce, don't you think returning it would be just silly and crass?
Immediately after hearing David's words, Mother turned to me and asked.
That's a valid point, isn't it? Hold on a second. I can't accept this, divorcing without debt repayment or an apology and then remarrying. I've talked to a lawyer, one of my acquaintances.
I showed them a loan book, which I had prepared just in case, following the advice of a lawyer.
You're gonna pay $40,000 to Sarah? She's earning her own money, isn't that enough? Do you want more? You such a greedy person.
As the two argued loudly, my mother made a proposal.
You're starting a new life together, and you don't want to give a huge sum like $40,000 to Sarah, who can earn her own money, right? That's right. Recovering debt from one's own family is a bad joke.
Divorce is not a happy occasion, but Scarlett getting married is something to celebrate. I'll cover David's debt up to $30,000 for Scarlett.
Mom, you're the best. I'm so happy.
But I have one condition. I want you to think about this. The document my mother presented read waiver of inheritance agreement.
Inheritance waiver?
So, if Scarlett agrees that, you'll take care of the debt for me, right?
I don't really get it, but this means Mom's gonna help us with our wedding funds, right? Then, we've gotta agree with that.
Facing the unbelievable notion of my mother paying my husband's debt, I felt like crying on the spot. There must be some hidden agenda my mother has. However, instead of helping me, who's been hurt by an affair and subsequent divorce, she's siding with my twin sister and cleaning up the mess. After ensuring that all the necessary procedures had been properly understood, my mother said we could end this matter. When we reconvened after our lawyer told us the application was accepted, my mother muttered as if talking to herself.
Now that Scarlett has renounced inheritance, it'll belong to Sarah, I guess.
Huh? Inheritance? why bring it up now? Although David seemed utterly confused with countless questions floating in his head, Mother continued her soliloquy.
The commercial building downtown, the apartment in the next town, the convenience store beside it, and this house too. I can't wait to see how much they'll be worth in the future.
Hearing this, David and Scarlett abruptly stood up, causing a loud noise.
This is the first I've heard of this. You tricked us.
If that's the case, I can help manage the properties or something.
What are you blabbering about? You think I'd trust someone who can easily betray others and then act all innocent? Why didn't you tell us? We lived together for so long, and you never mentioned it.
It's from my uncle. He's been a landowner for a long time, but he doesn't have any children. So, there's no one to inherit it. That's why it came to me. What's it to you anyway?
Well, you could at least give us one of the apartments. Like a wedding gift, a love nest.
Save your dreams for bedtime. This is all written in the documents. Neither of you read it, did ya? Maybe you two are a match in some weird way. My mother chuckled and stored the documents in a nearby safe. In the end, the money that my mother paid could be seen as some sort of palimony. You have been a real pain. Always relying on me, saying it's easier to stay at home.
But living alone is scary, and strangers come around.
You bring it upon yourself. You're always getting into some kind of trouble and bringing it home. It's been a real hassle. According to my mother, Scarlett had been reckless with her relationships even before adulthood, causing constant trouble. At that time, I was focused solely on my studies and started living alone when I went to college. So, I wasn't very familiar with how my mother and Scarlett lived. But from what my mother said and how she said it, it was easy to imagine the difficulties. There was a time when 3 men claiming to have been duped by Scarlett stormed our home. And when she dated a married man, his wife came shouting at our doorstep. It's been hell. Isn't that the same as an affair? Just like what she's doing now. I thought she had finally settled down, and then I hear about an affair with Sarah's husband. After my divorce was finalized, David and Scarlett filed their marriage papers and became a couple. But what really kept them going was the thrill of their secret relationship. Ever since David divorced me and started living together with Scarlett, aspects of each other that they didn't want to see or know about began to emerge. Every time it appeared to be, the relationship between them were getting more sour. Furthermore, it became widely known at David's workplace that he had divorced due to an affair. He's been treated like a hot potato because rumors say he made a move on his wife's sister. A mutual friend who works at the same office as David told me that he's gonna be transferred to a sales office in Nebraska soon. Well, he's essentially been demoted, hasn't he? But you know how he is, he might not even realize why he's been demoted. True. That's quite possible. One day, I was having tea at a cafe with my mother while I was taking a half day off to use up some paid leave. It's a local favorite and a nice spot to chat, but I didn't expect to run into the last person I wanted to see there. Sarah, I'm gonna be transferred. Oh, really? But you brought this on yourself, right?
It's a sales office that's a half day away by train. Isn't our manager harsh? They won't even cover my moving expenses.
Well, that figures.
Why the heck not? It's a company order, they should at least cover the moving costs. I've been working hard for the company.
He seemed totally oblivious to the fact that he was being demoted because of his own actions. What's more, the nerve of him trying to squeeze relocation costs from the company.
Hey, can you lend me some money for the moving expenses? Or I can take it as a promotion bonus or something.
You talk without realizing the absurdity of what you're saying. Besides, I don't need you anymore. Please get out of my sight. Ever since I divorced David, my days have been like a breath of fresh air. Recently, I thought about trying something new. A comic I casually posted on social media turned out to be a huge hit. I never thought a comic about my sister taking away my husband, mixed with some fiction, would be read by so many people. I feel blessed to be able to take on new challenges, encouraged by warm messages from fans. Maybe by sharing it in the form of a comic and having it read by many, some of my unpleasant memories are being processed. I hope to continue living fulfilling days, both in my work and with my comics.
Huh? Still single at your age? Pathetic for an old maid like you.
I met my ex-husband at a fancy Chinese restaurant. Despite his persistent sarcastic remarks, we exchanged words, and then my sister, who eloped with someone else, appeared. When my ex-husband announced he'd be marrying her soon, I laughed at him mockingly.
Oh? Didn't I tell you?
Feeling on top of the world, my ex-husband was caught off guard when I made a shocking confession. My name is Michelle Smith. I'm a 39-year-old housewife. I've been married to my husband, Mike, who works in the transportation business, for about 2 years. We met at work where I was previously an office clerk. I took a liking to Mike's lively and cheerful demeanor and made the first move on him. I found his easygoing and manly charisma very appealing. It was love at first sight. Upon hearing my feelings, he reciprocated, and we got married in a short span of 6 months. I thought he was a kind and pleasant person while we were dating. However, after our marriage, he turned into someone else entirely. It became routine for him to shower me with abusive words, and there were times when his actions made me feel like I wasn't even treated as a human being. I never imagined married life would be so tough and painful. Every day became gloomy, and I gradually started to fear Mike. He is a truck driver, but his job is specifically as a light truck delivery driver. I wish he'd been a long-haul driver so he would have been away from home more often, giving me some breathing space. As a light truck driver, his job entails delivering many loads to various places in a single day. So, he usually comes home in the evening. Early in our marriage, I had expressed my desire to work. I think I want to contribute to our finances. If both of us work, we can save more, and it'll be useful if we have kids. The moment I said that, Mike slammed his beer glass onto the table and started berating me.
You saying my earnings aren't enough, huh?
I never intended to imply that. Probably because he was drunk and overreacting, I found him terrifying. He seemed ready to hurl the glass at me at any moment, so I hurriedly tried to placate him.
No. I just don't want to be a burden to you, that's all. You're probably looking down on me inside. Who do you think allows us to live this comfortably? Even if you work, you wouldn't earn much. Don't act all high and mighty.
I realized after marrying him that Mike has extreme paranoia and wild mood swings. I never saw this side of him when we dated, so it was unexpected. Could I really spend the rest of my life with someone like this? The thought intensified my anxiety. But another incident fanned the flames of my worries. I'm truly happy Michelle married into our family. Mike rarely brought girlfriends home, so I was worried he'd never marry. This happened during a Thanksgiving's gathering at my in-laws' house. They are genuinely kind people who dote on me a lot. When we got married, they were over the moon, as if they had gained a daughter. I got along well with my mother-in-law. And my father-in-law was also very kind to me. One of the few consolations in my suffocating married life was dining out with my in-laws. However, in front of them, Mike began making a mockery of me. That turning point was during a family reunion.
Must be nice, huh? Having a beauty like Michelle. Look at my wife. See that flabby belly of hers?
A male relative began making fun of his wife, drawing laughter from the crowd. Beside him, his wife playfully pinched his belly and chimed in, giving a sort of husband-wife comedy routine, lifting the mood. Then, my husband turned the tables and decided to poke fun at me.
What are you talking about, uncle? Michelle looks so childlike, hardly womanly. Your wife looks way more elegant and mature.
I was left speechless by this unexpected comment and revelation. The male relative said,
Come on, cut it out.
But everyone seemed to find it hilarious. The only ones who looked concerned were my in-laws. Michelle, go to the kitchen. Help my wife with dinner preparations there. My father-in-law, seeing my distress. gave me these instructions as a way to escape the scene. Grateful, I rushed to the kitchen accompanied by my mother-in-law. Tears streamed down my face due to the overwhelming incident, but my mother-in-law comforted me as if she were my own mother. As for my father-in-law, he stepped in and chastised everyone, insisting they apologize to me. All did, except for my heavily intoxicated husband who remained defiant.
Why should a husband apologize to his wife? That's why Dad always gets ridiculed by Mom. Can't you have some dignity?
And for some reason, this led to a father-son argument. The gathering ended early that day, and from then on, the relationship between my husband and his father deteriorated. My visits to my husband's family home became infrequent. Life after that was a living nightmare. I lost my only source of joy and began to feel weak and lost day by day. Even daily chores felt monumental, and whenever my husband remembered that day, he'd shout at me.
You must have said something unnecessary to them. Thanks to you, I was humiliated in front of everyone. What are you gonna do about it?
Fearing his temper, I became constantly on edge. Living on the 10th floor of an apartment building, I often thought if jumping would offer an escape from my misery. When we're mentally drained, making rational decisions becomes a challenge, and I felt exactly that way. It was then, during one of these despairing moments, my sister visited. You haven't been in touch recently. I got worried. Michelle, you look awful. My elder sister, Catherine, who's 3 years older, worked nights. In her previous job, she was the most sought after, probably because she looked much younger than her age. It was rare for her to drop by unannounced. Turns out, she was in the neighborhood checking on the renovations of her new club and decided to stop by. Something happened with your husband? My sister and I were the best of buddies growing up. When I got married, nobody was happier than my sister, Catherine. She cried tears of joy and celebrated with me like no other. I just want to disappear.
Whoa, what happened?
Seeing the distraught look on Catherine's face, tears welled up in my eyes as I conveyed the painful situation I was in. Every day, it felt like I was being emotionally abused by my husband. It felt like living in a prison, a life full of pain and despair. There were moments I thought of ending it all, overwhelmed by it all. Catherine, after hearing all of this, showed visible anger, saying she's gonna go yell at my husband right then and there. But just imagining what could happen to me if she did made me even more scared. Tears streaming down my face, I pleaded with her not to confront him. Seeing my reaction, Catherine regained her composure and started brainstorming what could be done. After a silence between us, something seemed to click in Catherine's mind. With a bright expression, she whispered a plan into my ear. Hearing her plan, I exclaimed in surprise and asked if she was out of her mind.
You think that'll actually work? Who do you think I am?
Catherine said, confidence oozing from her every pore. I trust Catherine to pull it off, but the risks if her plan was discovered made me anxious. Don't you want to get out of this and be free? Seeing me unable to make a decision, Catherine turned serious and told me it was ultimately up to my courage. Hearing that, I made up my mind and agreed to her plan. From that day on, Catherine came over nearly every day. People who are emotionally abusive tend to act all high and mighty in public. If I'm around, he won't be able to pull anything on you, Michelle, right? Saying this, she visited me frequently over the next few months until her new shop was ready. At first, my husband seemed unsure of Catherine's frequent visits, but he seemed to enjoy the drinks they shared every evening, gradually warming up to her. Catherine made sure Mike drank enough to get really drunk and stayed with him until he fell asleep.
You're always joining me for drinks, so feel free to stay the night anytime.
Mike, now quite fond of Catherine, began to show her affection he never showed me, even trying to stop her from leaving. But Catherine always declined his offer with a polite smile, assuring him she'd be back the next day. For Mike, time spent with Catherine seemed like a dream. He was so enchanted by her that he seemed to have forgotten all about me. But then, when Catherine's shop was about to have its grand reopening, an incident occurred. I'm divorcing you." Out of the blue, Mike declared he wanted a divorce. Naturally, I was shocked by his words and demanded an explanation. "Why all of a sudden?" "I've found someone I care about more than you. I want to be happy with her. I want you to leave." I flat out refused to accept his selfish reasoning. I didn't accept my husband's decision to divorce. However, Mike seemed to have expected this and coldly mentioned hiring a lawyer. A meeting with a lawyer present took place a few days later. Even there, Mike hurled unbelievable accusations at me. "You just want money, right? Do you want the property? I'll give whatever you ask, so let's end this." In front of anyone, Mike made it clear he no longer had feelings for me. He seemed to want to end our marriage so badly that he didn't mind paying a hefty sum to make it happen. The lawyer, probably feeling uncomfortable, showed me the average amounts for such cases. "You really don't have much affection for me, do you? I could tell where your heart was. Easily figuring out who you're thinking of and who you wish to spend your life with." I lowered my head, realizing resisting was futile, and accepted the divorce terms. "Fine. But I demand the division of the property." He probably thinks he can just earn it back. Mike, oblivious and elated at the thought of a smooth divorce. Yet, watching him, I let out a mysterious smirk. And without him catching on, the divorce proceedings went underway. However, while I may have accepted, it was Mike's parents who firmly opposed it. Later, when we went to inform his parents, they shouted at Mike and spoke in my defense.
What on earth are you thinking? Exactly, Michelle has been so dedicated to this family, and you talk about divorce? And having someone else? You can't be serious.
His mother, teary-eyed, tried to convince Mike while his father, with a flushed face, was visibly angered and scolded him. But their words seemed to be just noise to him. Annoyed, he dismissively responded, "It doesn't matter if you accept it or not. She's already agreed to it."
It's because you pushed her into a corner with lawyers.
They must have really not wanted us to divorce. They've always cherished me like their own child, and the thought of separation was painful to them. I could feel their desperate pleas, and I felt guilty for betraying them. I love them too. I would have loved to live as their daughter. If only things didn't turn out this way with Mike. Regret was the only thing that filled my heart, and I couldn't hold back the tears.
People like you are so damn annoying. I'm done with her. I'm gonna marry someone I truly care for and be happy. Stop nagging me.
Mike, now completely enraged by his parents' words, started shouting back in defiance. Naturally, they couldn't accept his decision, and Mike was disowned right there and then. And so, Mike left his parents' home, apparently eloping with his love interest, and our divorce was finalized. Half a year passed. I was dining at an upscale Chinese restaurant, invited by someone, and enjoying a meal with my parents. "Isn't that Michelle?" The one who called out to me was none other than Mike. I had gone outside to make a call and bumped into him in the hallway. "Long time no see. Didn't think you were still around." His condescending tone hadn't changed. My face must have shown my disgust.
What's with that face? If you've got something to say, spit it out.
He wasn't shouting because we were in public, but he still looked down at me with cold eyes. I held back my anger and turned my face away.
Acting all high and mighty when you can't even stand up for yourself. Did you manage to find a boyfriend after our split?
Mocking my demeanor, Mike sneered at me. I knew this side of him only after our marriage, and I regret not realizing it sooner. "It doesn't concern you anymore." Without even confirming if I was in a relationship. Mike, with his usual sly grin, kept on taunting me.
Really? Still single? Pretty pathetic for an old hag.
Mike peered into my face with an expression that screamed he felt he'd won at life, even more so than before our split. I was about to give him a piece of my mind when... "Oh. Michelle, Mike. Didn't expect to see you two here." My sister Catherine walked into the store, calling out to both of us. "Catherine. Perfect timing. I was just about to share some news with Michelle here. The smug look on Mike's face was almost disgusting as he snaked an arm around Catherine, drawing her close. I just stood there, not letting his actions fluster me, my gaze icy cold as I watched the scene unfold.
I thought I'd tell her first that we're gonna get married,
he bragged, pulling Catherine even closer. I had always suspected that his feelings for Catherine were the real reason he wanted a divorce. But looking at them now, with emotionless eyes, Mike, still not realizing the gravity of the situation, shot me a smug grin.
Sorry, I guess. I mean, I'm gonna be living the dream with her. But hey, you're not too bad looking. Maybe with a bit of effort?
I'm sorry, Mike. I can't marry you. Gently shaking off his arm, Catherine dropped the bombshell with a smile. His face was a picture of shock, unable to comprehend her statement. The truth is, I never had any feelings for you.
Wait, what? What are you saying? Didn't she tell you?
I couldn't resist, my voice dripping with mock confusion as I savored every moment of his confusion.
What do you mean didn't tell me? The whole thing, Mike, was a plot Catherine and I hatched to make sure we divorced.
And as I walked over to join my sister, we exchanged amused smiles.
Right?
Even witnessing this, Mike couldn't fathom what was going on. His words came out jumbled. Was this all just a play?
Thanks to Catherine here, I got quite the alimony from you. Really grateful for that.
Rejecting his initial proposal for divorce was all part of a plan to get as much property as possible from him.
It was all Catherine's idea. I was eager to divorce but didn't want to raise suspicion. That's why I played along. No way! Catherine would never say that.
Why not? Struggling to come to terms with the truth, Mike babbled on, refusing to believe my words. I tilted my head in confusion and asked, "Why do you say that?"
Why would Catherine say something like that? She said she's gonna marry me.
Well, if you took my sales pitch so seriously. I was just doing my job, entertaining a client. Catherine responded to Mike's comment, her brows furrowed in feigned concern. She touched her cheek with an exaggeratedly innocent gesture, sighing softly as she spoke. I only entertained you as a client. I never had any feelings for you. I'm sorry if I gave you the wrong impression.
So you've been fooling me this whole time? For the past 6 months?
You were such a valuable customer, Mike. Always trying to one-up everyone. It was kind of cute, actually. Mockingly, my sister spoke with a derisive laugh. The ex-husband, completely fooled by her theatrical performance, displayed his anger and raised his voice despite being inside a shop.
All those words about wanting to be with me, asking me to divorce Michelle, were all lies?
Who in their right mind would want to be with someone like you, an emotionally abusive husband?
What did you just say?
The sharp words of my sister infuriated my ex-husband, who began breathing heavily in agitation. While cautiously watching out for any signs the ex-husband might become physically aggressive, I observed their exchange and discreetly reached for my phone. It was hard keeping up the charade for half a year, but thankfully you're simple-minded. It wasn't like I could just stay married to you. In truth, my sister was already married when I was with my ex-husband. She has a husband who works as a bodyguard. To ensnare my ex-husband, my sister persuaded him by saying she was also going to get a divorce. From the perspective of my ex, who had never been popular in his life, the fact that someone was chasing after him so much was a delightful feeling. At the same time, he reveled in the superiority of being able to take someone away from another. Essentially, he fell right into my sister's trap.
So, about you taking time to get that divorce.
That was obviously a lie. As you can see, my marriage is perfectly fine. At that moment, a man emerged from behind, walking towards us with a smile. Pleasure to meet you. Seems like my wife has been causing you some trouble.
You can't be serious.
This is my husband. I invited him today to introduce him to you. My sister, with her radiant smile, made a point to show off by linking arms with my brother-in-law, exuding happiness. My ex-husband looked dumbfounded. His face a mix of anger and sadness.
It's a shame, isn't it? Wasting half a year only to end up being thrown out of your own home. It's so pitiful, I can't even bear to look.
As my ex-husband seemed dazed from the shock, he tried to lash out at me, reaching to grab my collar. But my brother-in-law swiftly intervened, handling him like he was a mere child.
What do you know about what I've gone through this past year, chasing after her? Do you understand? I don't, and I don't want to. You play with people's lives and then act all high and mighty. Do you understand how much pain you've caused me?
Facing my ex-husband's aggressive stance, my voice broke with anger and tears as I finally let out all the frustrations I'd bottled up.
The way you ridiculed me in front of our family. Your attitude towards your in-laws. All your actions during our marriage. I will never forgive you. You're going to get a taste of hell.
I then turned around and called out, "Please, come out." Emerging from the room behind me were not just my ex-husband's parents, but also my own parents and even my husband's relatives. Now everyone can see your true colors and just how pathetic you truly are. Ignoring my ex's questioning gaze, I played a voice recording I had received from my sister. It had him speaking to her in a disgustingly sweet manner. "Are you really going to break up with Michelle?"
Of course, I don't need someone useless who can only do house chores. I prefer someone mature and attractive like you, Catherine.
His sleazy voice was so palpable that it made my skin crawl. Even though it was nauseating to hear, I did not stop the playback. In front of the entire family, my ex-husband was being made an example of. "Don't you love Michelle?"
Of course not. She's nothing more than a maid to me. I only married her because she would be a notch in my belt, no emotional connection there.
Everyone was visibly repulsed by his comments. He started to create a scene, demanding the recording be turned off, but my burly brother-in-law wasn't having it. He restrained him effortlessly, ensuring he couldn't interfere.
She's so obedient. Just a little threat, and she'll do anything. She's more like a servant, someone I can throw away anytime. I have no attachments to her.
Having heard the evidence of the emotional abuse he directed at me, his in-laws were furious. Everyone present unanimously criticized him.
You're a disgrace to this family. How could you say such things about your dear wife?
You're pathetic, even for a man. I'm embarrassed to even call you family. As everyone looked at him with contempt, I spoke coldly. Nobody's on your side anymore. Stay away from her family. I never want to see your face again. Having masterfully executed this public reprimand, I stopped the voice recorder and asked my brother-in-law to throw him out. My ex tried to retaliate, but to no avail. He was forcibly ejected from the premises. After that, the store was locked up, but my husband made a scene out front demanding it be opened. Eventually, he was reported and taken to the police station. My sister and I, having exposed my husband's wrongdoings, gave each other a high five and shared our joy of having achieved our revenge. It felt like a celebration as we ordered food at the restaurant, and everyone showed sympathy for the hardships I had endured.
Reserving the whole place was the right call. Everyone could relax and enjoy without feeling restrained,
said my sister, Catherine, who had arranged it. I expressed my gratitude to Catherine, who had helped me through everything, and I savored a meal with her for the first time in a while. And so, I got my revenge on my ex-husband. After that, it seemed like he was almost stalking Catherine, got reported to the police again, and apparently, my brother-in-law, Mike, gave him a taste of his own medicine. After that, Mike was too scared to show his face around my brother-in-law. 13 years have passed since, and now I'm handling the accounting at Catherine's store. I'm still in touch with my ex-in-laws and occasionally dine with them. I'm deeply grateful to Catherine for helping me out of my shell. I'll repay this favor someday. With that thought, today, I'm gonna work hard alongside Catherine.